Okay, so this is the first podcast of Jono Talks. We are here today with Karl Bianco. He is a radio broadcaster who started at SYN Media. He is studying journalism at Swinburne University and is now heavily involved at Southern FM. Welcome to the podcast, Karl.
Thanks for having me, Jono.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. Yeah. So, first of all, what attracted your interest to radio?
Long-time listener of radio, and it interested me, so I got referred to SYN, as the station is a community radio station for those between the ages of 12 and 26. So I basically, listened to it a fair bit and then decided, hey, you know what? I might have a go at this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've interviewed quite some notorious people. So I believe you've interviewed Darren Hinch.
Yes.
What was it like?
Hinch.
What was it like interviewing him?
Oh, he's a character.
Yeah.
He's a highly respectable figure, and I was pretty nervous leading up to it because I didn't know, what I was going to say to him and what I was going to talk about with him, but no, I ended up having a really good quality conversation with him, and he's a great bloke and really knowledgeable when it comes to media and news-related things as well. So
yeah,
no, I had a good conversation with him, and his view on media and the world and stuff like that, it's pretty incredible.
Has his perspective changed over the years? Because I was listening into that interview with you and him, and because he suffered from cancer, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Did he mention anything on that and how it might have changed his perspective on life in general?
Yes, he did actually. He keeps more active these days.
Mm-hmm.
He goes swimming when he can, and he basically just increased his physical activity to keep fit and healthy and active. So that was one of the big things for him, and I don't think he drinks anymore either. Like he was well known back in the day for being a heavy drinker, and that was kind of what he was known for. That wasn't what he was known for, but he was known to drink a fair bit and be outspoken, all that kind of stuff. And sure, he's still an outspoken person, just minus the drinking, seeing as he did have that major health scare, and he was very fortunate that he was able to have a donor and a transplant.
Yeah.
And he's still here with us today, which is fantastic. And he, emphasises the fact that without that donation, he wouldn't be here today. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really glad that he's going well at the moment. Do you see yourself modelling him in any way in the future?
Oh, look, I'm not too sure really, because I really don't know where I'm going to end up, and I don't really know where I'd like to end up. It's just a matter of, keep pursuing the ideal career of being in radio and media and, I guess elements and areas of Darren Hinch. I'd certainly like to be like that. I mean, having the ability to just, I guess, be so outspoken about certain topics is great.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's legalities sometimes that you have to be cautious of, so probably being mindful of them. And, I probably wouldn't want to be, I guess you could say, as rebellious and outspoken as him, but having that sort of ability to, be so, I guess, having the ability to be able to communicate with an audience the way he did, that's probably something that I'd love to be able to do. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just started at SYN Media quite recently, actually, a couple of months ago, and it's always been something that I've always kind of wanted to do. I've seen you get involved. You obviously had your own radio program, KB Confidential, which was really good, man. So so I've kind of been thinking about doing this podcast for a while, and so I was like, we'll give it a shot. But I'm not too sure if radio is something I want to do in the future, though. That's a good question. It's definitely worthwhile building your skills. So, like your news skills, your on-air skills, just what it can lead to exactly. Like, yeah, I'm undecided as well. I mean, I'm studying journalism at RMIT, so I believe you're studying journalism as well. Yep. But yeah, it's going to be hard finding a job in the industry. You know, like the landscape's changing. You know, the news we get is more online. You get news for free now. Is that going to factor in your decision when you look for a career?
No, I don't think so. Actually, going back to Darren Hinch, when I spoke to him, he actually brought up the point that there's always going to be room for some kind of hard copy publication, even though we are moving to a more digital and online world.
Yeah.
So, look, you know, I think the way we see media and the way that we're going to actually, you know, where radio will be in the years to come, that's going to be interesting to see, because these days you have streaming websites online, and people enjoy listening to their own music, and there's certain apps that you can get these days where you can, you know, piece together some of your favourite songs and, you know, your favourite on-air hosts. Or,
yeah, and I guess, sorry to interrupt you there, but I guess that can, you know, transfer over to music as well, because I mean the music landscape has changed with all the online stuff. Like, you know, artists are not getting paid as much as they were. For example, do you remember when U2 released an album on the iPod, on the MP3 player, and it was released to everybody? Yep. Even if they didn't want it, and that was that had an enormous backlash. I'm not sure if you're a fan of U2, are you?
Oh, I don't mind them as a
fan. But imagine the other people who had, obviously they were paid, they got some money for it. But obviously people who didn't like U2, they wouldn't have liked that. But that just shows you, like, you know, artists or radio broadcasters even are trying to find different ways to earn an income, basically.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you on that. I guess really, as just said, with the increase of online and people having access to a lot of stuff that they used to rely on radio to hear, that they can now access online. You know, there's less people wanting to listen to radio to hear new songs. They'll just wait for them to, you know, be released online and stuff like that. So, whereas if you go back in the years prior, people would be just waiting to hear the new song on radio. You know, radio was the main media platform, I guess you could say, where new release songs were played for the first time and stuff like that, and, you know, you get to listen to it that way. But nowadays, as you just mentioned with the U2 example, you know, that was all reasonably new music. Like, I'm pretty sure it was a new album.
Yeah, it was a new album. Yeah, I don't think anyone else has tried that. Is U2 the only band that's tried that? Like, just imported? Because I remember I woke up one day and I was like, oh, it's U2's album on my iPod, but I don't remember downloading or buying the actual album itself. But I'm a fan of U2, so I was like, okay, and yeah.
Well, I know of a case of the Foo Fighters releasing an album for free recently, but that was more to do with the unfortunate situation in France, the terrorist attack that occurred. They decided to, Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters decided to write a whole album and some songs and stuff like that. And he's extremely talented, and the fact that he was able to create an album, I'm not sure whether or not he already had some ideas for songs or what, but he and the Foo Fighters released a brand new album free of charge to everybody to just download. So I'm not sure if that was on iTunes, but it was still, like, you know, being able to access an album for free, sort of thing. So
yeah,
although it wasn't like you woke up to it on your devices.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's I hadn't heard about that. That's really good of Foo Fighters. I mean, they're quite a popular band.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So was that a new album of theirs?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was like literally written from scratch, I believe. It was to do with a tribute to Paris and
Oh, okay. So had they prepared it like years in advance, or just?
I'm not sure. Like I haven't really looked into it too much. I just recall hearing about it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just on that, like the Paris attacks, what do you think of that? Like, it's just such a crazy world we live in now. I mean, you have like all these terrorism acts. Have you heard about the shooting in America?
Which one was this?
In Bernardino or
I did hear about it.
Yeah,
it's
apparently
tragic, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently Obama yesterday just said that it was a terrorist attack. So on innocent civilians. So it's happening in Paris. It's happening in Syria. What do you think can be done to prevent terrorism? Obviously, the Paris attacks were absolutely dreadful. I mean, no one was expecting that. I think Malcolm Turnbull, our Prime Minister, made the comment that we all feel involved in Paris some way, you know, even if it's through song or the movies. It's such an iconic place. Just crazy. Like there was like 3 suicide bombers, and it was outside obviously, I know you're a soccer fan. It was outside the stadium as well. You could actually hear the noise, the gunshot, or like the bombs or whatever going off. It was that was an interesting time. Yeah.
I think the worst bit about that, about the Paris situation is, if you go there, they like to celebrate a lot, and hearing firecrackers or fireworks go off is not something that's unusual to people that live in Paris.
Uh-huh.
You know, they have many different carnivals, and they're, you know, a well-known city of the world and location that everybody likes to travel to. So I think at first people legitimately thought that it was just firecrackers, and then they realised, oh no, hang on a second, this is bigger and louder, and then it was just unfortunate. It was tragic. You know, it's not something you want to see. So
I think the French, I'm not sure if the label is Prime Minister or President. I don't know which.
President Hollande.
President Hollande, yes, that's correct. And President Hollande was actually at the match, and he left, I think, midway through, I believe.
Yeah, for safety reasons. And there was actually a photo taken of him being told about what was unfolding in Paris at the time.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the comparison was President Hollande and President Bush when he was told about 9/11, like the photo similarities between the two of them, the positioning of whoever was notifying both presidents at different times. Like I remember seeing that on social media, like the discussion about it and how unique the photos were and how similar they were.
Yeah. I mean, imagine getting a phone call saying that there's attacks happening. Like, were attacks... Do you know if the actual attacks itself were happening when he received a phone call, or was it a threat?
I don't think he actually received a phone call. I think he just got word from one of his security guards or whoever. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a photo of him taking a call during the actual match in itself, because I don't think he was sitting in a stadium. I think he was sitting in like a box, like a corporate.
Sure. Yep.
But I mean that must have been to attend the match and then know that there's all this dangerous activity happening outside the stadium. I mean, it's just dreadful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, and just on the soccer topic, like, what do you think of Sepp Blatter? Like, obviously, he's been alleged to have been involved with some corruption.
Yeah.
In FIFA. There's always been rumours about this. There's always been kind of that stigma that FIFA's not really well-run organisation, that they do it for the money.
Yep.
But when you think about it, I don't know exactly all the full details. I don't want to allege anything, but it must be hard coordinating all these countries, you know?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because, like, how many countries are competing in the, like, not even in the World Cup? Like, there's just so many. I'm not sure how many countries are actually involved in FIFA, but it'd be heaps. And does FIFA?
I think majority of them are in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Does FIFA coordinate they coordinate the clubs as well, don't they? Like.
Yeah, I believe they'd have something to do with them. But you've got your local representatives that communicate with FIFA. In the case of Australia, it's the Football Federation of Australia, and that every country have their own head for football and or head of football, and the Football Federation of Australia, it's their responsibility to manage the operations of everything related to football within Australia. Be it the A-League, the FFA Cup, which is a recent initiative that they've brought out to reflect the change from, I believe it was, we used to be in Oceania.
Yes.
In that competition in that zone, and then we moved to the Asian zone.
Yes.
Because, we obviously were, our quality of football
was better.
We played was better.
Yeah, the competition there was... not up to, like, because obviously we want to advance football or soccer or whatever you want to call it in Australia, and obviously a big part of that is moving to Asia as well. We've got some good players, We've got Matt Ryan, the goalkeeper from Valencia. He looks a talent. He looks really good. Is there any players that take your fancy? Have you been following the national team?
Yeah, I have been following, actually, especially seeing as Australia won the Asian Cup earlier in the year, when we hosted it in Australia.
Wasn't that brilliant?
No, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was great to see that. Massimo Luongo is a good player. Getting, attracting a lot of attention in the EPL. I'm not too sure who he's playing with at the moment, but I believe it is an EPL club. He does quite a good job. I'm just trying to think who else. There's a fair few out there. Can't go past the captain as well, Mile Jedinak, does well.
Yeah.
EPL
Crystal
again.
Palace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, because obviously that's an interesting one, to be honest, when they announced that Mile Jedinak would be the captain of Australia. He's a great player, but do you think I would have thought Cahill could have taken the mantle? Yeah,
look, I think people will debate it. I think Mile Jedinak's still playing in the EPL and younger than Tim Cahill, so. I think Tim Cahill has enough responsibility as it is to try and ensure Australia scores a goal. The expectation is he's the best player of the national team, with all due respect to all the up-and-coming players.
Yes.
As well, because, it's a highly talented team. And at times we're still relying and dependent on Tim Cahill to come and pull something out of somewhere, which he manages to do, funnily enough, every time.
Yes.
There's that much focus surrounding him and his ability to win the ball or, set up a goal.
He just every time he plays, he just looks really invested. Like he looks really enthusiastic. He really wants to play for his country. And how about the football? How do you think the Tigers will go this year?
Oh, geez, that's a good question.
Do you know?
Well, it's unfortunate first up to see about Dustin Martin.
Yes.
Made the headlines recently for the wrong reasons. That's never good to see. But look, I'm not too sure. Every year, the last 3 years, Richmond have made the finals and haven't got past the first round. I think the expectation of them for next year will be to actually just win a final. And if they do that, I think we'll be happy Tiger supporters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, do you know Adam Trelaw, the new recruit from Collingwood?
Yeah.
He made a controversial comment. He said, did you hear about it?
I did.
Yeah, he said Collingwood was a better team than Richmond, and that's why they picked him, because obviously there was some interest from North Melbourne, Richmond, and Collingwood, and he made that audacious comment, which I love Collingwood. I'm a fan of Collingwood, but I thought that was a bit, that could come back to bite you, saying, you're a better team. What did you think of that? Did that get on your nerve?
No, not really. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the player's choice to go where they want, wherever they want, wherever they feel they're going to be most suited. The manager of the player has the responsibility of, knuckling down a deal, if you will, and obviously Collingwood were providing a better deal for him, and he's at Collingwood now, so I guess we'll just have to see how he performs in the black and white next year. Yeah,
he will. It'll be interesting, he's really good, because this is the thing with the GWS players. I remember they're all really talented. They're all really young. I think GWS Giants have a real future, but they're still losing a couple of players. I think even Richmond picked up a GWS player in the trade period. Yeah,
they did, Jacob Townsend.
Do you know much about him?
I know he's a hard tackler. He goes into the ball pretty hard, and he'll be a good addition to the Tigers. Unexpected, because, as you said, Trelaw was the main topic of discussion. Oh, he's going to go to Richmond, but, his situation has changed. We still ended up with a GWS player, and I'm looking forward to see what he produces. But on the topic of GWS, just quickly, Stephen Silvani was the list manager at GWS, and then I believe it was near the end of this season, he decided to go back and be list manager again, or recruitment manager.
Yes.
He's got a role like that at Carlton now, back at his club that he's well known for playing at. And now, 5 or 6 plus GWS players have ended up at Carlton. Yeah,
I remember that trade quite well. They got Jed Lamb, who I think he transferred from Sydney to GWS, and now he's gone to Carlton, probably to seek more playing time. And then you've got, who else went? Plowman, Lockie Plowman, the defender, and someone else. And so I think it was a ruckman maybe. So that's an interesting trade. And they lost Troy Menzel. Was it Troy? Is that his name? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
And just on that, did you hear about, what did you think of his brother's return to football, Daniel Menzel? Because obviously he had all these ACL reconstructions. I found it really heartwarming that he made it on the field last year.
Yeah, no, I think it was fantastic. I mean, he came out having not played football for 12 to 18 months, and, he'd been battling injuries for a while, played his first game of football for ages. He comes out and kicks 3 or 4 goals for Geelong, and I don't think Geelong ended up winning that game by memory. I think they ended up losing by a fair bit, but, the way he was able to just, he took a great mark and kicked a few goals, and it was good to see a guy that had been injury-driven for a while come out and perform so well.
I know, it's just, it's such a hard thing, injuries. It's part of the business when you get into the AFL, but just to see someone because an ACL injury, I mean, you're out for pretty much the whole season sometimes, depending on what kind of reconstruction you get. There's, you can get a synthetic one, which I think is not the preferred one, but it gets you back in time. I think Nick Malcheski opted for it. But so that's really sad because, you see all these hamstring injuries, 2 to 3 weeks, but then you get an ACL injury and it's I just feel so sorry for this guy. We had in Collingwood, Matt Scharenberg. I don't know if you know him, Matt Scharenberg.
Yeah, name rings a bell. Yeah.
He was pick. I forget what pick he was. He was top 10 pick in the AFL draft. Has an injury.
Wasn't this just recent as well?
Yeah, recent ACL injury, and
Yeah.
he's had two ACL injuries. He's had foot issues, and he was named by Mark Williams as the best schoolboy talent since Wayne Carey, and everyone at Collingwood knows his talent, but he just hasn't shown it on the AFL park. And and that goes for anybody really. If Daniel Menzel was still playing, if he didn't have the ACL injury, he'd be one of the rising stars of the competition.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess if you're injury prone, it's unfortunate, and when you do your ACL, you can be out for 12 months, in some cases less, and in worse cases even longer. So, you just have to be cautious of that. But there's a lot of great rehabilitation that you can undertake these days, and doctors are all over it, the way that they can, get you fixed up and on the right track. So,
yeah. And it's got to be... just with injuries as a whole, I'm not sure about this interchange cap. I think it's because they're getting rid of the sub rule, thank God.
Yep.
That was a nuisance. Imagine playing and you're in the 22, but you only play for a quarter with the sub. I never liked the sub rule.
Yeah, I guess, looking at the sub rule, there was advantages and disadvantages to it. In a sense that, the procedure for a concussion test, if a player was being judged to see if they were concussed and needed to be, needed to call it a day because they were injured and, not capable of doing simple things, then in the meantime there was a 15 to 20 minute bracket that could be filled by the sub player. They could come on the field. I think this was only happening maybe within the last 2 seasons because I think the sub rule lasted for 3 seasons.
Yes.
In the end. But, yeah, the player that was the sub could take off the vest and go on the field for a maximum of 20 minutes to allow for the injured player to be assessed to see whether or not they could still go on. And I think that element of it was good. And, yeah, it's gone now, so I guess it's just a thing of a past. But yeah, I don't think people will be missing it too much. But the interchange capping comes in now, so it's going to be harder for AFL clubs to accommodate for the amount of changes they make across the game, and they have to be really strategic when it comes to this sort of stuff and make sure that they do, really know how many substitute or changes they are making, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't exceed the amount they can have.
You might have, Ruckman, resting more forward, way more.
Definitely.
And, Karl, I think that's all we have time for today.
Sure.
Mate, I've had a blast. It's been awesome. It was great to do the first podcast with you, especially. And I think it was really good. So thanks for being on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Johnny. I appreciate you asking me to come on board and have a chat to you. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you want to catch more of Jono Talks in the future, you can go on Twitter at Jono Pertile, or you can sign up on my or follow me on my SoundCloud account. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. That was Jono Talks. I'll see you next time. Bye.